Watching News at Prime, let's pick up on another discussion now. Corruption Watch's latest report showing that Gauteng and the Western Cape account for 70% of the country's graft cases. The group saying the City of Tshwane, Johannesburg and Cape Town are the biggest hotspots. Let's discuss this now, and we're joined by Corruption Watch Director Karam Singh. Mr. Singh, good evening to you and thank you for your time. How did you arrive at this conclusion that these two provinces, Gauteng and the Western Cape, account for 70% of corruption cases?
Thank you. Thanks so much for the question. Thanks for having me on the program. The report that you're referring to is our 2023 annual report, which we issue an annual report. It's a summary of our work from the year under review. Corruption Watch has established a platform to receive whistleblower complaints. I think at our height we received close to 5,000 complaints in a given year. Last year, the number was a little bit lower. It was in the 2,000 range. So what we're talking about in terms of these municipalities is just a breakdown of where those complaints come from. I would be cautious when it comes to drawing too many conclusions to say, these are necessarily the most corrupt entities within the public sector. We receive a variety of different complaints across national, provincial, and local government.
A breakdown of the cases themselves. How much are we talking?
The amounts vary, and the type of complaints that we get can be about employment types of issues, abuse of power, which is not necessarily about looting, to other more sophisticated types of complaints about procurement. But, just anecdotally, if we look at the reports annually of the Auditor General, we do see that there are massive issues, particularly in our metros, around maladministration, irregular spending, and allegations of corruption, in many cases linked to irregular procurements.
Municipalities are public entities. What is the possibility, Mr. Singh, that these municipalities are possibly finding themselves with this kind of reputation owing to possible relationships with entities that are in the private sector?
Oh, absolutely, inevitably. And I think the type of corruption that we're talking about in most cases is a collusion between public sector actors, whether it be officials, whether it be politicians, elected officials, and private entities. So when we talk about procurement fraud, there's usually some kind of a collusion between private service providers and officials. This is inevitably where we see the big industrial scale looting that we saw as characterized in the state capture era. And when it comes to challenges around money laundering and illicit financial flows, you're talking about not just private companies, but also a web of enablers who allow people to conceal money that they've gathered illicitly.
Yeah, and I'm asking you that question purposefully because I was reading an article in the Sunday Times today, and the former CEO of EOH, Stephen Van Coller, who complains that after handing over evidence against 46 people, now EOH is a private organization or a private entity, and he says that he's handed over evidence against 46 people, and these included 12 government officials, 16 former EOH employees, and not a single culprit is sitting in jail. And this is after 5 years that he handed over this information to law enforcement. How much work does the entities such as the South African Police, all the way to the one that is led by Shamila Batoy, how much work do they have to get through in order to get these people in orange overalls?
It's a massive challenge. I mean, the EOH case study has been well popularized. It was something that was dealt with at the Zondo Commission. If people are interested, Corruption Watch did a long research paper on the EOH case study that people can find on our website. It's so concerning that we have implicated people, going back to this year, going back to state capture, going back before state capture. If you just look at the trial of Jacob Zuma from the first arms deal, and these cases get dragged out, the investigations get prolonged, then the cases get dragged out when they get brought before court, and there's this absolute frustration in terms of the ability, the capacity of the MPA to drive these cases over the line. One wonders now, with the arrest of the speaker, we're in 2024. How long is her case going to take? Until we see successful prosecutions, I think we will feel this frustration around the capacity of the criminal justice sector to effectively deal with grand corruption.
Final question to you, and you invoke the name of the former speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, and arguably, let's say in recent times, she becomes a public face of public sector alleged corruption. I've got to use the word alleged because she's not been found guilty by a court of law. So we have many examples of people who have allegedly been involved in corruption in the public sector, but crooks in the corporate sector. We're not seeing any examples of those. How many of these people who sit in the private sector and are involved in influencing corruption in the public sector, why is it that we're not seeing those faces?
I think it's a fair question. It's a question that we would have as well. I mean, we've now had the suicide of Marcus Jooste. This was the biggest fraud scandal in South African history. It was the stuff of teleseries and documentaries. It took forever for his matter to be arraigned by South African authorities. In fact, it's what led to ultimately to the timing of his suicide. We haven't seen corporate leaders implicated in corruption brought into the dock. A few cases with VBS, Mutual Bank, but I think you're right. Whether it be the few politicians, the few elected officials, it's even fewer when it comes to private sector corporate criminals. So this is what we need to see in the future when it comes to gaining back that confidence that the criminal justice sector is effectively tooled to deal with these cases and to pursue accountability, because at the moment it seems like the big corporates and powerful politicians can get away with it because we've seen so few prosecutions.
Corruption Watch Director Karam Singh, thank you very much for your time.